I have been crossing the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean island Dominica, and I put my backpack on and hiked through the jungle and to the second largest boiling lake, and from there over the Caribbean Sea to Panama. Yesterday I have crossed the Panama Canal. It costs $3,000 and there are many restrictions. So one is you need to take a sort of pilot on board and you have to serve him a decent dish, a bottle that is not opened yet, and if you don't do that you will be charged some $100. Then you have to have at least 4 people on board, line handlers, move the lines in the locks. So in the end we were 7 people on board on REYKJA. There are 3 chambers where the boat gets lifted up around 20 meters. Then you will cross an artificial lake, the Gaboon Lake, which is very nice actually, with a rainforest at the shore. You reach the original canal that was built 100 years ago. Then 3 other chambers that lower you down, and you're in the Pacific Ocean. And now my sailing trip has quite changed, because there is no easy way back to Europe. From now on the only way is go west, and that is a long way back to Europe. First evening on the boat after Panama, and it's good that I could go. At the end, the immigration officer wanted to charge money from me. He wanted 200. So that was really a good way to say goodbye to Panama. Now I'm on my way to Galapagos Islands, and as you can see in the background, there's no wind. And the problem is that the trade winds are very much to the south. The weather routing app talks about 20 days to Galapagos Islands, a route that usually is made within 9 days. And now I've reached the trade winds, the time of no wind and motor is over. And actually I got it 200 kilometers before the weather forecast predicted it. So I'm really lucky. The boat is sailing against the wind, which is hard sailing, but very nice because the passat is strong and blows me towards Galapagos Island. I think the whole journey is around 8,000 kilometers, 35 days, which is much more than over the Atlantic. Even then, you're only half over the Pacific. So what am I going to do with so much time at my hand? There's work I always wanted to do. For example, the bilge pump needed an overhaul. Then the wind generator blocked and I had to climb up the mizzen mast and see what made it block. There was a sound from the fuel tank, so I opened the fuel tank and put the cell phone in to have a look what might be wrong there. One morning I find the security device triggered in my cockpit. Now I know at least how it looks like. And then I sit for hours in the cockpit, just looking, dreaming at the sea, the clouds. And I start to ask questions, silly questions. For example, why is Venus so much higher at the sky than at home? Are these dead octopuses I find in the morning on the deck, where do they come from? Did they jump out of the water, like flying fish? Or there are tiny birds like swallows that fly over the sea far, far away from the land. Where do they sleep? In these huge waves? Or how do the flying fish communicate that they jump all at the same time? For a couple of days, suddenly REYKJA becomes a bird colony, which I'm very pleased about in the beginning. But one morning I step on my deck and I'm missing my wind vane on top of the mast, and instead there is a big bird. From that on, my enthusiasm became a little bit damped. I'm reading a lot for hours, for days. And then I sit in the cockpit, just looking, dreaming at the sea, the clouds. Moment now, because for the first time in its 35-year-old life, REYKJA has crossed the equator. During the time of Captain Cook, crew members that were not baptized were thrown into the sea, which is not very useful to do for a lone hand sailor, but I will have a beer instead. But I must confess the beer is warm. Only if the wind exceeds 0.44, I can cool my fridge, because otherwise the wind generator won't produce enough energy for the whole boat. The last fresh vegetables is garlic, and the question is, how can you prepare a meal from garlic? Also, Spotify has stopped this service after 30 days offline. And for the last day before the Marquesas, The weather forecast predicts the highest waves and the strongest wind. So let's see how that'll turn out. "35 days alone on the sea, my longest sailing journey so far. I haven't seen any other boat during that time, only electronically on a device near Galapagos, but otherwise never, not even electronically. You start to think what will happen when you have some sort of emergency. But this is not the real question. I was 35 days just by myself with a boat, the sea, the animals, the clouds, wind, and there was nothing from outside during that time. No horror, no war, no epidemic stuff, nothing to annoy me. And I think for some time at least, this is quite nice.